Are you wondering what it's like to be a mechanical engineer? If that's the right field for you, what it's like to work as one professionally? Well, in this interview replay, we're going to talk all about that right now. Hey 1% Nation, I'm Jake Voorhees, and you are watching episode 46 of the 1% Engineer Show, where we empower young engineers to rise to the top 1% of their career. If this is your first time to the channel, make sure you subscribe because I release videos on Wednesdays, Saturdays, and Sundays for young engineers so you can crush it and succeed. And if you want the 1% Engineer Kit, which is 7 ebooks and 4 resume templates, comment below and I'll send you a download link. And in this interview replay, we have Brianne Martin on the show, the people engineer from Dallas, Texas. She is a mechanical engineer who is involved with a lot of things and has had a very successful professional career so far in her young life. So let's not waste any more time today, guys. Let's jump right into this interview with Brianne Martin, the people engineer. Hey 1% Nation, today our featured guest on the show is Brianne Martin. Thanks so much for joining us. Talking about your engineer journey. Brianne is a mechanical engineer from Texas. She went to Marquette University and then transferred before finishing up at Texas A&M Corpus Christi. She's also the immediate vice president for SHIP, which is Society for Hispanic Professional Engineers, for her region in Texas. Is there just 5 regions?
Yeah, 5 regions, but region 5 is 7 states.
Nice. That's crazy. And she has traveled the world working with Zodiac Aerospace for 5 years or so. I don't know if you actually traveled for that entire duration, but now you have started your own engineering consultancy, and we're going to talk all about that today, along with your activity in minorities for STEM and youth and all the other things that you do to support the engineering community. So again, Brianne, thanks so much for being on the show, and why don't you say hello to 1% Nation and fill in any of those gaps, maybe talk about some of the things that you do outside of engineering as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So hello, everyone. Jake, thank you for having me. I'm very supportive and excited to be a part of the 1% Engineering. As you mentioned, my name is Brianne C. Martin. C stands for Celeste. And I'm very much kind of, I guess, like your non-traditional engineer. Obviously, you kind of gave my little intro, but I'm very energetic. I'm a big people person, hence the name, the people engineer. And a little bit that I guess wasn't mentioned was I've actually been singing since I was 3 years old. So kind of the stereotype of being this nerdy, sit behind the computer, don't know how to interact with people. No, I've been on stage since I was 3. I've loved entertaining, being a part of people's lives. As you can see, I have a mic and computer and everything. My whole situation is just all kind of interchangeable, and I absolutely love just kind of being everything and anything I can be. And engineering actually helps me achieve that.
I think that's really important for people to remember today, is that it's not all about just STEM. The new hot acronym is STEAM, right?
STEAM, yeah.
Throw the arts in there, and you got that. I remember when we met several months ago, you told me about your singing career. I think you still had it in your Instagram, so that's awesome. Since you were age 3, huh?
Yes, sir.
That's the way to get plenty of practice in front of a crowd. Grab the mic.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Grab the mic before you're even in school and sing in front of all these people. That's so awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we'll move on to question 2 here, Brianne. I'm so happy to have you on the show. We've been chatting about doing this for months now, and I've been really inspired with all the stuff that you do. You're always posting about some sort of volunteer activity, some sort of cool thing that you're up to. So it's so awesome to finally get you on the show. So, Brianne, I think you were the first mechanical engineer to be on the 1% Engineer Show. So I'd love to hear about how engineers figured out which pathway was for them, how they knew that the passion was inside of them to pursue a certain field of engineering. So that's my first question for you, is how did you know that mechanical engineering was the right fit for you?
Yeah, so actually, my mom grew up wanting to be a welder. So she was a very hands-on learner, tech, shop. She wanted to wear work boots and get her hands dirty. But her dad, my grandfather, actually was a bricklayer. So he was very much like, no, do an inside job. So then my mom always kind of pushed me to be a technical route. In high school, I took a hand instrument drafting class and absolutely fell in love. Obviously, nobody knows what hand instrument drafting is anymore. It's all AutoCAD and 3D modeling. But I loved it. I mean, I even have, like T-squares and triangles. And I just got so obsessed with the fact that I could actually create, and be able to communicate with just pictures and, very precise precision. It just got me so excited. And then growing up, I was always really, again, a hands-on learner, how, things moved, why it moved the way it did. And something in particular was like gears and sprockets, which just like blew my mind, that you could turn something and then in turn it would have kind of an end result, whatever. And it was just so neat to me that you could calculate gears and how it worked. And science and math had always was the one thing in school that challenged me. Everything else kind of came easy. So there's that sense of accomplishment. It's like, man, I spent a whole week trying to figure it out, or, solving for X when math wasn't supposed to have letters in it. Got just me really excited and really pumped about it. So the more I started learning about engineering, mechanical was just kind of this broad spectrum of anything that moved and, how the world was around us. And I just got really excited and, obviously hardcore engineered about it all. And seeing that, I really, in turn, kind of wanted to do some kind of manufacturing, how things were built, how they were made. And so it's kind of built through my career as being a hands-on learner and application.
Yeah, that's awesome what you say about your family. You had a father and grandfather who were hands-on trades. My father's a carpenter, so I can highly relate to that. It's almost like how the merger of technology and that same sort of like hands-on engineer brain, like seeing the angles, like the spatial mind. And now with our generation with technology, right? It's like, okay, well, in order to really be a baller at that same thing, you have to become an engineer and merge that with the CAD. And I grew up with the T-square. I had hand drafting in high school, so I can totally connect with all this. This is awesome. Love that story, Brian. Thank you so much. So the next thing I always love to ask engineers, and your story is good here, and I'm glad we talked about this offline a little bit, but I can relate to your connection to Wisconsin because when I finished up in Delaware, I ended up in Wisconsin and spent some time in Milwaukee, and you went to Marquette for, you'll have to tell 1% Nation for how many years it was before transferring, coming home to Texas, but I'd love to hear the decision from an engineer about why they chose a school. I went out of state as well. But what attracted you to move into cold Wisconsin from Texas to go to a private Catholic school, Marquette? Oh, breaking my own rules here. That was my dad. Anyway, so what I would love to hear if you can backtrack, I guess 10-ish years ago or something, but what was it that made you want to go up to Marquette and choose that school, home away from home? I'd love to go back and hear that story.
Yeah, so for any other Texans out there, it's like this big rivalry. We have two major schools, like most states, but it was between A&M and UT. And they're both really great engineering programs, but I just felt like that wasn't me. I didn't fit into any of these categories. I wasn't kind of, again, your stereotype of anything. And I was like, there's something bigger and better out there. And this is the one chance I could go anywhere in the world to study. And so my number one priority was kind of co-op. I knew that, again, as a hands-on learner, I was already struggling in high school with just kind of conceptual math. So if there was a way that I could learn with internships or hands-on, and so co-op was obviously kind of a big buzzword and still is in the engineering world. And so Marquette is kind of like one of the founders of the co-op program. When I went, I think they told us they were like second in the nation to have a solid co-op program. So that was already just exciting for me. Two, it's in the Rust Belt, which is like major manufacturing. I mean, they manufacture Harley Davidsons there, like, hello.
Yeah.
So it was just kind of another thing where I knew I wanted to be in manufacturing and how things were built and that kind of opportunity. And then three, I mean, Wisconsin was just something so, abstract. Again, like you say, from Texas to Wisconsin. And everywhere I tell, when I tell people, why'd you pick Wisconsin? Like, well, in Texas, we have hot, hotter, and mildly cold. Like the coldest it gets is 45. You wear a hoodie, no big deal. And so to go to Wisconsin and see they had like colored trees and like you had a fall coat and a winter coat and you had to learn to layer, it was just a whole nother adventure. Yeah, an experience. And it ended up being my first winter there. It was like negative 27 degrees. And I was just like the happiest thing ever. People were like, you're crazy. It's so cold. I'm like, this is so great. So in a part of it, again, all collectively together. And I actually grew up Roman Catholic, had a lot of issues kind of in my hometown. It was like this very politically charged place. And so even just growing up as Hispanic in the Catholic church, I was like, I feel like religion is meant to be more, right? I'm supposed to have some kind of relationship with God, but it shouldn't be as limited as I grew up it knowing to be. And so even Jesuits are kind of essentially liberal Catholics. And so when I got to go to the university, it was kind of their theme or their slogan is called Be the Difference. And so everything was community service based. And, you're more fortunate than what you realize. And how do we give back even the little pennies that we may have? And so being able to just cultivate all of that, Marquette really just was the answer for me. And funny enough, I actually took my car. I had a little Baja Subaru, my truck car at the time, and drove 1,000 miles. And it's literally 1,000 miles before ever even visiting the school. I just fell in love with, again, everything online. A recruiter came and saw me in Dallas, and I just really fell in love and took the leap and never looked back. And I ended up being there for about 2.5, 3 years.
So you made the commitment to Marquette without even visiting, right?
Yeah, no school
awesome.
prior visits. Yep.
All in. That's so good. It's funny that you say it's exactly 1,000 miles away, because I did that drive as well from Maryland to Madison, and it's about exactly 1,000. So we're like triangulating together here.
Pythagorean theorem, yep.
Yeah. It's so good, 1% Nation, to feel that type of connection with the school that you choose. I mean, just telling that story, I know you can reminisce, and just you knew in your heart that it was the right fit for you. And a lot of kids, they don't really know which school they want to go to. Maybe if you're lucky enough, you get into many. Some kids, especially engineering students, STEM students, they get into all the schools they apply to, and it's almost like this paralysis of choice. So sometimes you just have to think deep within yourself what's important to you. And you talk about, the Catholic fit and the culture of the school. This is one thing that people say often, is that they chose a school that fit in what they wanted to believe in, the culture that they wanted to push forward in the world, not the name of the school, right?
Right.
So a lot of kids get caught up in that. They get rankings and this everything. That's not what really matters in the end of the day. And if you can tell that passionate story about whatever you're doing, whether it's school choice, job choice, career choice, whatever, that's what people really get energized by. So I'm super happy to hear that. So I want to talk about your time after this. And you had some awesome opportunities to travel around the world. I guess all of it was with Zodiac, which is an aerospace provider. They make stuff that goes in planes, and I don't know if it's just shuttles. I know they make stuff that goes into, I don't know if it's just 747 stuff, but you'll have to fill in that. But I want to hear, Brianne, a little bit about how you grasped one of the opportunities to travel. I'm sure that if anybody would come to the office and say, who wants to go to around the world, and everybody would raise their hand, but they asked you, right? So I would love to hear how you managed to grab those opportunities and what that experience was like.
Yeah, so I guess I lead up to how I became even an engineer at Zodiac. And so I actually had an internship since my freshman year. And so a lot of freshmen feel, as 1% engineers, like, don't be discouraged when they say, oh, we're looking for juniors or seniors, to still have your resume prepared, get all kinds of hands-on experience where you can say, here's where I was an engineer, even though I may not have had the title. And so I had an internship my freshman year as a civil engineer. I literally drove around my hometown and just graded streets. One of the very first tablets before an iPad was ever a thing. And that was 2009. Then 2010, talk about the power of networking. I just happened to know someone that was working on the base because I graduated from kind of the Fort Hood area. And they said, hey, I know my friend, dad actually has internships on the base for, some kind of Army, whatever, but engineering technician. Well, they ran out of spots. And so he said, oh, well, I forwarded your resume to down in Corpus Christi on the Army base where they do helicopter repairs. So I was like, okay, cool. I get to end up doing aerospace stuff, hands-on learning. I took that internship my sophomore year, did it again my junior year, and then did pressure vessel design. I kind of was all over the place to kind of see what I liked, and then got an internship for Zodiac as a tooling engineer intern. So they did VFM, vacuum form, very, very, very technical mechanical stuff. And then essentially I graduated and they got me a full-time offer the last day of my internship. So I essentially was like, this is a smaller company. They're international. And so they own about 75% of the market share. They're the only company that does specific custom seats. So you see Emirates or these kind of big names that have super special, unique stuff. And essentially, again, I was like, there's an opportunity for me to kind of jump in and fix anything and everywhere I can and get my hands dirty. So the manufacturing plant is up here in North Texas. Essentially, over 3 years, I created my own rotational program from tooling engineer, liaison engineer, just a firefighter. And then the marketing and sales group actually created a position called the customer account manager. And so I was the liaison, kind of the technical person between the customers and the actual entire plant. So then whenever the customers wanted something, that's the opportunity I got to travel. I oversaw Africa, Middle East, Southwest Asia, and India, and the Middle East. And so it was really cool because I got to travel to all these places, walk their aircraft, whatever they had, and kind of give my technical feedback as well as customer support, whatever they needed, aftermarket sales. It was just really cool, a lot of fun. Again, totally in line with who I wanted to be in the end goal of my career.
That's so awesome. There's so many valuable things that you talked about in that story alone. First of all, always apply for stuff even if you don't think you're fully qualified.
Yep.
Go for it. I hear this story so often. They say, oh, we want somebody that has 5 to 10 years experience. Someone applies with 2. They communicate well, they nail an interview, and they get the position. So sometimes you should just go for stuff no matter what. And then you had a position be created in a custom fashion just for you. I mean, that doesn't happen to everyone. I'm sure you had something to do with like, oh, we should do this, and talking about what you want and how you want to grow with that company. So that's so awesome. And thirdly, wow, so you were traveling around the world. I saw that you said you put in 60,000 travel miles with this position. And you would go, they would send you in and then inspect these airplanes and then probably go to the next place, right? So that's so awesome. Super jealous. I was able to work in Canada for 4 years, and that's pretty cool, but nowhere on the whole world circuit like you. That's so sweet. And that's kind of a precursor into what you're up to now, Brianne, because you have decided to start your own engineering consulting business. So I would love to chat with you about how your time at Zodiac and all the experience that you accumulated there has been able to jumpstart that, and what that's been like for you, mostly why you wanted to leave private sector engineering or professional engineering and pursue that road. I'd love to hear all about that.
Yeah, for sure. So again, in opportunities where I had with working through nonprofits, I started with ASME, Mechanical Engineering Society, then got involved with SHIP, Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers. And, then I kind of just really started gaining momentum, SWE and Latinas in STEM. And I just kind of saw all these different opportunities of resources. Then I kind of noticed like, man, everyone's reinventing the wheel. Like, it's already SHIP. They already had like SHIP Tinas, my shirt I'm wearing. And then it was Latinas in STEM. And then SWE had like their own Latina initiative. And I was kind of like, man, if these people just worked smarter together versus harder and recreating the same kinds of events, then they could be so much more successful, right? It's like, about the quality of the type of events, but the type of quantity that you can, achieve. And so that even in my professional world, again, I was kind of essentially being the people engineer. I was a marketing and sales, but I had the technical background because I could talk to people, but also like say whether or not they could actually change the injection mold without spending millions of dollars, without throwing away that tooling. And so before I was a business and marketing person, now I had that technical aspect to kind of bridge the gap and be kind of anyone and everyone that needed to be in that room at the same time. And so I really enjoy being able to be that communicator. I've just grown up, again, as I mentioned with Marquette, is being able to be the difference and serve others. And so if I could hear, what Jake had versus what Sarah had versus what Miguel was trying to bring to the table, then if I can get us all to kind of come to collectively, well, Jake's liking this and Sarah would like to bring this and Miguel had this idea, this might be able to tie it all together. So then again, everyone's input is kind of consolidated, considered, and, everyone's happy versus people that are trying to speak different languages, even in, English is, someone speaks business language, someone speaks technical, and then somebody else is just like, well, that's not going to work with the people we have. So kind of being a program manager, essentially, the people engineer of it all, and allocating resources, looking at people as resources, ideas, and then just being able to see how much more efficient and effective we can be. And so essentially that's why I decided to start my own engineering consulting firm. And so it's not specifically engineering, it's kind of the soft side. So it is considered a consulting firm. And so that, it's called BCM Engineered Solutions because it's solutions, but it's very much an engineering process behind it, why it works the way it does, how we look at things. And so I really want to be able to train other consultants as I continue to grow to be able to see those opportunities and resources as well.
That's so awesome. So Brianne, within that, if we could sort of put that into one little bundle for a 1% Nation, would you imagine that your strongest attribute, biggest skill, which has empowered you throughout this road and enabled you to start your own consulting thing, it seems like communication, and off of communication, having those interpersonal skills, like you said, to be able to be in a room and figure out what all these people need to work together and achieve the same goal. It seems like that really is what you're highlighting here has been like your standout attribute that has enabled you to like blossom and do all this. Love to hear what your view is on that.
Yeah, so I'm a huge advocate for emotional intelligence. And so many of us, even non-STEMers or non-engineers, don't take the time to really know who we are, right? So if I didn't take the time to like evaluate my negative feedback or what I wasn't really good at, I would never know what my strengths were either. And so if I was just like, no, I'm great and I love design and I can sit at my computer all day, yeah, but like I feel like miserable, I can't do it anymore. I need to get up and move around. And that's the kind of person I am. And so versus so many people, well, this is a good paying job and I just need to sit at my computer and get over it. Well, if that's not who you're built, like your personality, again, you're kind of being able to be self-aware, then you're just going to be miserable forever. And there's no real paycheck that can ever make up for something that you enjoy and you're good at. And that you're kind of, again, helping the world with something that you enjoy. And so I'm very driven by passion. I'm very driven by personal development, leadership. Again, what can I learn from who and everyone? And so that's, again, kind of something that I really, really advocate for is emotional intelligence, because as you continue to grow and learn, the crazier, cooler, and smarter you get. And so I've always made it a point to not be the smartest person in the room and to surround myself with others that are doing bigger things, that are like-minded, to kind of help push me, and I in turn can kind of help push them and hold each other accountable.
EQ, 1% Nation. EQ is always bigger than IQ, emotional intelligence. And within that self-awareness, these are things that Brianna and I agree on 100% very strongly. This is one thing that Gary Vee talks about a lot. I know you and I are both big fans, and I always hear the EQ over IQ from him. And that's so great to hear you just talk about the same stuff. So final question here, and I really do believe we've hit a lot of this because I am so impressed and so inspired myself with all the opportunities that have come to you based on your networking and your relationship building and really the activism that you deploy. You're just involved with so much stuff. How can these opportunities not just come your way? And this is the epitome of what is normally my standard question 5. I think I've snuck in some bonus questions for you, but and since we've heard a few things of it already, maybe we can just kind of summarize it, or maybe give your highlight example. But I'm always encouraging 1% Nation to just do, get out there and get involved with everything. So maybe a story that we don't know about yet, or one overarching piece of advice or summary about your involvement and how it has led you to opportunities that you would have never expected. Just going out there and doing stuff and volunteering and just doing as much as you can fill your calendar with. Love to hear your views on this, Brianne.
Yeah, so one, I grew up with the advice, I could be anything I wanted. So my mom, my momo, her mom, my grandmother, everyone was just kind of saying everything in life is your choice. I mentioned I grew up singing on stage until I was 3, and I was like, well, I want to help people. I want to be a doctor. Well, you can do that too. Well, I want to be a photographer. You can do that too. And they would literally help me, show me the actual realization. Well, you can be a doctor from 9 to 5, and then you can be a photographer out in the afternoons and take pictures of people, and then on the weekends you can still sing and have a recording studio. So it was just being able to show me that, again, the limits of my life was honestly the limits I had of my innovation. And so being able to be innovative and allocating resources accordingly, and that's kind of the token phrase of my company, because it just describes so much of myself. And so everything in life is a choice. So you choose to be unhappy. You choose to limit yourself. You choose to come home and watch Netflix versus going out and becoming a leader or the face of an organization. And so being able to have just, again, that mindset and, again, even the opportunity to fail. If I fail, the worst that can happen is someone say no, or, well, you're not ready yet. And then I just continue to try until I become ready or become that face of the organization or whatever I need to be. And so in turn, it's kind of just jumping off the ledge and seeing what happens. You never know you're going to fly if you never even just go out there and try. And so that was something, again, that was really important to me, is just being able to have that support system. And again, surrounding myself with like-minded individuals to kind of say, no, go for it, Brian. And I failed. Oh, you know what? It's okay. We'll try again. And so to be able to have that, again, I would wholeheartedly suggest and definitely support, go out, just do it, try it. The worst that could happen is you're not ready, and then you try again, and who knows, you could be an expert after that.
I love that phrase you said a minute ago. You don't know if you're going to fly if you don't get out there and try.
Exactly.
Did you make that up on the spot? Is that
Yeah, I did. I'm telling you, I'm a communicator. What I feel in my heart comes out.
That's so good. I'm going to use that. I'm going to give you credit for it once or twice and then probably steal it as my own, Brianne.
Hey, better together, as long as I start with the credit.
That's so good. Okay, Brianne, so coming up here, we're going to do the lightning round, or as I like to call it, the 1% round, where I fire you fast questions. Okay, Brianne, are you ready for the lightning round?
I'm ready.
Great. What is one personal habit that contributes to your success?
Tenacity.
Love it. Great answer. One word, boom. Okay, Brianne, this is an opportunity to talk about one mistake that you've made along your career, anything that you want that a young engineer can learn from so maybe they can prevent or lessen that blow themselves.
I I would say it's kind of like a two-tiered. One is self-doubt. There are so many opportunities I could have had if I just put myself out there. Again, the worst thing someone could say is no. And I just felt so limited, like you mentioned earlier, is, oh, I'm not ready for that, so I wouldn't apply. Or, oh, I'm not worthy to go talk to that person, and would just, totally miss that opportunity. And then two is, again, kind of almost like that, the self-doubt part is I didn't really do my research as much as I should have. So even something as class notes, I would take crazy class notes, but I would never go back and actually read them. I was always just afraid that I didn't get it or I didn't ask the right questions. And so just being able to, like, again, read your class notes and go back and read the textbook. And did I understand it the right way? And ask those questions, because I was just always fearful of being stupid or not smart enough. Whereas if I just would have asked, I would have shown that I was actually smart, because either I got this portion and not this, or, just being able to piece it together, I was taking the initiative. But again, all of that I think kind of stemmed from self-doubt. I was just kind of worried about what that meant if I still had questions.
Believe in yourself, 1% Nation, and when in doubt, ask for help. The world is there to help you, but if you don't ask, it's never going to be there because they don't know that you need help. So always reach out to people. Great response, Brianne. Okay, if you could recommend one book to the 1% engineers, what would it be and why? I want to hear why too.
Yeah, I would say it's Love by Leo Buscaglia. He's an Italian professor, and actually he taught love class at UCLA. And it was just, again, kind of about the emotional intelligence and knowing yourself, but seeing love everywhere around you. And so, again, kind of accepting the differences of people, but still being able to love yourself and respect others and being able to love them for being different versus like, well, you don't get it. You're not on the same wavelength. We can't be friends. And so he just goes about different types of ways of learning and education that just really struck a chord with, again, being able to be emotionally intelligent and love others and kind of respect and almost, again, embrace diversity. And it was just a really great book. I still go back and even just read it now. And it was actually a gift my mom gave to me when I went away to college.
Great. I feel like I can see the cover in my mind. I'm going to have to check that out and read it for myself. So, Brianne, we've heard about one of your biggest pieces of advice for your personal road for the 1% engineers, but what is the biggest piece of advice you have ever received in your career?
Again, everything in life is a choice. Again, just that. When my mom would tell me growing up, I really didn't understand, what it meant. Like, okay, mom, whatever. But then as I got older, the fact that it literally is everything in life is a choice. Again, you choose to wake up in the morning. You choose to push yourself. You choose to be in whatever situation you're in. And I go and, speak to all these different camps or girls or, underprivileged representation. And I say, if you refuse to quit, you will never not be successful, because if it takes you 20 years, it takes you 20 years. But you chose to be where you're at. And so even that, I failed calculus 2 5 times. And I registered 5 times, but I chose that I was going to be an engineer regardless of how long it took me. And so again, just everything in life is a choice. It depends on how much you want it and what you want and how you're going to get there, because everyone's different, right? Everyone's level of success is different. Everyone's definition of success is different. And so that just really resonates with me now. And again, I just say it as often as I can because it really makes a huge difference.
Love that. I had to retake Calc 2 as well.
It's not easy. And I think it's like, 2% of the world actually know that math. So
it's probably the hardest class in undergraduate engineering. Yeah. And for me specifically, because I didn't have to take thermodynamics like you did. Because
that was rough.
Yeah, that's one thing that civils don't have to endure compared to mechies. So love that. Okay, so final 1% round, final lightning round question here, Brianne. In terms of a technology or something for the future of engineering or wherever you can go in any direction you want, what's one thing that you are pumped up for in terms of the future that's going on right now?
I think just better, stronger collaboration. It's just, with technology, even just finding you're in Delaware and I'm in Texas, and being able to have find my tribe all over the nation with just a simple hashtag. And so just being able to have technology create this, me having, an interview with you through Skype. And again, we're just in our living rooms. Is just amazing. Again, just being able to have all these great minds and be able to link up in better ways to communicate. And so even, with advancements of holograms or, phones, technology is just kind of, again, how we're all bridging the world together from every corner is just mind blowing and just absolutely amazing.
The world is a small place now.
It really is.
It's pretty good. Well, Brianne, the people engineer from Texas, thank you so much for being on the 1% Engineer Show today. It's been awesome to hear about your journey, learn from you, listen to the crazy world traveling stories and everything else that you're involved with, starting businesses, volunteering in the community. You honestly are pinnacle of young engineering. So I'm so happy that 1% Nation can learn from you and hear from you. So for anyone who wants to keep in touch with you, follow your journey, maybe reach out to you about how they can follow in the same footsteps, what's the best way for them to reach out, follow you, get in touch, and then we'll say goodbye.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. I guess Instagram or social media handle is Brianne Martin12, or even just Google the People Engineer and it'll all come up. So please feel free to reach out, look up the hashtag as well, the People Engineer. I'll definitely be there.
Awesome. And I'll link it up in the video here, guys, so you can find Brianne. So thanks again so much. Say bye, guys, and we'll check you later.
Appreciate it.
Hey, 1% Nation, I hope you enjoyed that interview replay with Brianne Martin, the People Engineer. And if you did, consider subscribing because I release videos on Wednesdays, Saturdays, and Sundays for young engineers so you can crush it in your career and become a 1% engineer. Thanks for watching the 1% Engineer Show, guys, and stay hungry on your quest to become a 1% engineer. Cheers!